In 2010, a quirky Chicago startup reached a multi-billion-dollar valuation faster than Apple, Google, or Microsoft. Wall Street eagerly anticipated its massive public debut. But that explosive growth was born in the immediate wake of the 2008 global financial crisis. Consumers were completely tapped out, and local storefronts were struggling just to keep their doors open. Andrew Mason, a young web designer, had recently teamed up with investor Lefkofsky to build The Point. It was an online platform meant to organize groups around social causes and protests, but it was too abstract and failed to attract a real user base. Inside that failing platform, Mason noticed a small cluster of users doing something entirely different. They were using the site's collective action tools to band together and negotiate bulk discounts on everyday items. Mason and Lefkofsky scrapped the social causes and launched a dedicated deals platform, naming it Groupon, a blend of group and coupon. By stripping away the activism, they had accidentally built an economic engine perfectly calibrated for a recession. People needed cheap goods, and businesses desperately needed foot traffic. The mechanics were highly effective. A daily deal for a local restaurant or spa would only activate if a minimum number of people agreed to buy it. If a user wanted half off a pizza, they had to convince their friends to buy in too. This dynamic transformed everyday consumers into a massive, unpaid marketing team, driving subscriber numbers to 150 million across 35 countries. By late 2010, Google recognized this local commerce loop as a direct threat and offered $6 billion in cash to acquire the company outright. Mason and Lefkofsky turned down the largest acquisition offer in Google's history. They chose to remain independent and take the company public instead, eventually debuting at a valuation of $12.7 billion. Walking away from a guaranteed $6 billion meant they now had to prove their long-term viability to public shareholders. And once Wall Street analysts began pulling apart their financial filings, they found severe structural problems beneath the surface. The core issue was the brutal math. To run a deal, businesses slashed retail prices by 50%. Then came the second cut, a 50-50 split. Out of $100, the merchant kept just $25, while absorbing full labor, rent, and inventory costs. Sales representatives pitched this initial loss as a customer acquisition cost, promising loyal, long-term regulars. In practice, the deals heavily attracted discount tourists, bargain hunters who would never return to pay full price. Local shops found their inventory depleted by coupon cutters, running completely out of cash in the process. Compounding the problem was a complete lack of defensibility. The model required no proprietary technology to replicate. Within months, over 500 copycat sites, alongside tech giants like Amazon and Facebook, launched identical platforms. To survive the sheer volume of competitors, the company had to deploy thousands of sales representatives in massive call centers to manually cold call local businesses, sending overhead costs through the roof. The natural viral growth loop was dead. They were now operating an aggressive outbound sales machine, actively spending more money to acquire new customers than those customers would ever generate in profit. As their 2011 IPO approached, leadership faced a major problem. They were burning hundreds of millions of dollars on marketing, a massive cash bleed that looked absolutely terrible to potential public investors. To hide this cash burn, they introduced a highly unorthodox accounting metric called Adjusted Consolidated Segment Operating Income, or ACSOI. They argued that marketing was merely a one-time investment to acquire customers, so they simply excluded it from their operating expenses entirely. By using this creative math, they reported a healthy $60 million operating profit for 2010. However, when standard accounting rules were applied, that supposed profit was actually a catastrophic $420 million loss. The Securities and Exchange Commission immediately intervened, forcing the company to publicly retract the metric and completely restate their financial filings. The restatement confirmed that the core business was bleeding cash, deeply damaging investor confidence right at the starting line. The financial mismanagement continued well into their first year as a public entity. Their own auditors declared a material weakness in their internal bookkeeping systems, meaning they couldn't accurately track their own cash flow. Because they had expanded into expensive, high-risk services like LASIK eye surgery and luxury travel packages, customer refund requests began to surge. Their faulty systems failed to account for these returns, leading to a massive $65 million retroactive earnings restatement.
Wall Street reacted instantly. The stock plummeted, erasing over 77% of its value, as the market realized the underlying business model was entirely unsustainable. The board of directors quickly ran out of patience. The continuous string of accounting blunders and operational failures left them with no choice but to completely overhaul the leadership team. On February 28, 2013, Andrew Mason was officially fired from the company he helped build. He announced his departure in a legendary self-deprecating memo to his staff. After joking that he wanted to spend more time with his family, he compared navigating the intense CEO experience to the notoriously difficult video game Battletoads, writing that it was like making it all the way to the TerraTubes level on his first try. The rise and fall of this daily deals giant demonstrates a harsh reality of economics. Clever marketing and viral acquisition loops are meaningless if the underlying unit economics actively destroy your own supply chain. Walking away from Google's $6 billion cash offer to pursue unchecked hypergrowth ultimately proved to be a fatal miscalculation, leaving behind a stark warning about confusing temporary market hype with actual defensible value.